What's up, everybody, and welcome to Assemble XP. I'm one of your hosts, Matt. Joining me is my friend. I have no intro for you today, by the way. I got nothing.
Good.
I started thinking on the way home. I'm like, what am I going to say? How am I going to kick off my main man, Court? But the Dark Knight himself.
I'm not wearing a Batman. I guess I have a lot of Batman in the room.
That's
Sure, I'll
what
go
I
with
thought,
that.
because I saw it with the cowl on the
I'm
stand.
Batman.
Thank you very much, Court. It is Friday, and I thought it would be super fun. So did you. We're doing the texting, and there's tweets going on all over the internet today. The rumors are about. They're floating around. There are rumors on the interwebs, like there always are, that there are some major potential studio acquisition move being made by Microsoft, Xbox, talking about a multiple studios, maybe one of them. We're not too sure, but this is all rumor and speculation, but I thought it'd be fun. So did you. Let's talk about this. Fill us in, Court. Who are the studios? Who are the major players? What is going on right now?
So it's there's many insider, I guess we would call them, or content creator. They're all a flutter on the Twitter, talking about 4 studios possibly being purchased or partnering with Microsoft. So some people are saying that Microsoft has a studio acquisition. Now, Phil Spencer has spoken about this previously, saying that they're not done acquiring studios. They're not done bringing in studios to the Microsoft, portfolio.
Umbrella. Yeah.
The 4 major ones that everybody continues to talk about, though, are Take-Two, Square Enix, Sega, which you and I spoke about, and Ubisoft. Now, I want to preface and right off the bat and say, I don't think Ubisoft would be a studio acquisition. If it is, wow, blow my mind. Prove me wrong. I would think Ubisoft is more along the lines of that thing that we've spoken about many a times, you and I, via the internet and also on Three Dads when we spoke about it, where we think that Ubisoft Plus will be coming to Game Pass. It's almost like a marriage made in heaven. I don't even know why it hasn't happened yet. Especially with the holiday season coming up, it almost sounds like, hey, let's do this. So for the listeners or the watchers of the videos that don't know, Ubisoft Plus is on PC and it's on Stadia. Mm-hmm. It allows all the Ubisoft games, day one and date, just like Game Pass, show up in this service. It is just the same. So if it came to Game Pass, you would have the likes of Beyond Good and Evil 2 that's coming out eventually, Ghost Recon Breakpoint, Far Cry 6, The Division 2, Watch Dogs Legion, The Crew 2, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Immortals Phoenix Rising, and the Division Homeland Heartland game that would eventually be coming out. So all those games would be showing up there. To me, Ubisoft would be huge just coming to Game Pass, and I would be happy with just that.
Me too.
Now,
that would be enough.
Yes. Now, we've spoken about Sega to many extent, but for some reason, neither one of us even spoke about how the fact that Persona 5 and Yakuza would be with Sega, and that would be almost as I guess payback for that PlayStation Showcase where they announced all these games that used to be Xbox exclusive.
Yep.
Because Persona has always been PlayStation.
True. It's associated with the brand, right? And just like, to an extent, like Sega, I feel has been very associated with Xbox, only on the Game Pass side, because it's been so ingrained there. Like Yakuza Collection is over there, but we haven't seen Persona, and you're right, and that would be a huge one. To go back for a second before we get into the other two, to talk about Ubisoft, I am totally with you. I think that would be huge and make all the sense in the world. And on the Ubisoft side, they're still raking it in when it comes to sales on PC for those that don't get Ubisoft Plus. They're getting all of the revenue on the PlayStation side. They're getting all the revenue on the Nintendo side when they publish games there. They will still, like we've talked about before, there's still a huge amount of players that don't subscribe to Game Pass that still buy those titles. They will go out and buy Far Cry for $79.99. They're going to continue to make all that revenue, but to slot it in Game Pass and say, if this is to come out in like a week or so, and let's say it was Ubisoft, to me, that is like the biggest wow because I like EA Play. I think it complements very well. There aren't a ton of EA titles in their back catalog that I'm like, this is, I can't believe I get this. The Ubisoft catalog has me interested. To be able to have, for example, a Far Cry collection come out on October 8th, right? Or that week, and say, here's all the Far Cries. Here's the Assassin's Creed collection with all the updates and the upgrades, the HDR, everything. I think Ubisoft would be massive. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah,
There were other studios though, right?
Well, to jump on your point, I'm 100%. I think Ubisoft would almost be the biggest for Game Pass, not like the biggest out of these studio acquisitions, because I think Take-Two would be the king of the hill here. If they got Take-Two and they had Grand Theft Auto, but if they got Ubisoft would still make money, because you'd still, just like Microsoft, you're still buying DLC. Ubisoft is a huge DLC microtransactions, but microtransactions on a story way. Like, you're buying things for the story, and so they would still make their money that way. But I wanted to talk about Take-Two. Take-Two is a very interesting one, because they have arguably two of the biggest games in the last 10 years. And the biggest game in Grand Theft Auto, and Red Dead, game I don't like, but it's fine. Then you also have the WWE 2K series, the NBA 2K series. Yes. You have Max Payne. You have the upcoming BioShock. You have Borderlands, XCOM. It's huge. It's beyond huge. Now, I like Grand Theft Auto, but even for you, for that WWE side, it's ginormous.
Okay, so to talk about the whole catalog, I think it would be crazy on the Grand Theft Auto side. I don't see, but at the same time, it's like kind of like Ubisoft, where it's so many of these developers go with the additional content. It's the DLC, it's the season pass, battle pass. That's how they're raking it in to keep those games, give them longevity for a year, 2 years and beyond, because they keep adding more content in there. And that's how they're making the real money. That's pure like revenue for them, right? Take-Two is, I think, would be absolutely massive, but at the same time, I think of a game like NBA, where you buy the cards, all the additional content, it's paid. The core game is whatever, and there are minor changes. I'd love to see Take-Two do it. On the WWE side, being that's like half of this channel, I've always wanted to see that for Game Pass, because where the state of that franchise is right now, it's not good. And this would give them a sense of security, maybe allow Take-Two some little bit of leverage to be able to hang on to the licensing with WWE themselves, because apparently it's not great right now, because the game is being delayed so much. But it would allow a game like that I would be stoked for and to play, to see like, oh, it's on Game Pass, cool, and here's all the additional paid content, and I would go bananas. Like, I would buy every bit of content, because that's just my game, and I would be the one. And if they only release, like I've said in previous episodes, that for the WWE side of things and 2K, if they release that game every couple of years and gave us DLC all the way through, that would keep that player base very happy. Update the roster, just like a sports franchise. Update the roster, update the arenas, update, and you're going to pay for it. And players will go, yeah, sure, free on Game Pass. So Take-Two in Borderlands, like, I find this one, that's almost like the golden egg. Like, that is, I will be shocked by it. Ubisoft, I would be happy, surprised, but not like out crazy, because I see it on PC, right? 2K for me, Take-Two is the one where I'm like, holy crap, that's massive.
But I would say even their acquisition of Bethesda or ZeniMax was just as massive and just as crazy. I didn't see it coming. When it happened, I literally messaged Pez and Waba. I'm like, I guess I'm buying an Xbox. Like, there was no doubt in my mind that I was buying an Xbox. Like, it was just like, I need to have this console. If they did purchase Take-Two, and that's been the big rumor for the year.
Yeah.
Many people have said it. If they purchase Take-Two, it would be like a mic drop moment. The amount of people that would go out and buy an Xbox solely based on Grand Theft Auto would be mind-numbingly crazy. It would be that you couldn't get an Xbox if you tried for years, because people would be buying old Xboxes. They'd be buying Xbox One X. They'd be buying, doesn't matter what version. And then all the PC players wouldn't matter because they can just have Xbox. So just Game Pass automatically would just stratosphere.
I think
And
you're
they
100%
wouldn't even
correct.
have to put Grand Theft Auto on PlayStation. Like, you know how they do with Minecraft? Minecraft, it was already there. They wouldn't have to put the next Grand Theft Auto on PlayStation. They could be like, nope. Because right now, Sony only has a deal, as far as we know, because they've shown the trailer 700 times and no one cares anymore, on the last Grand Theft Auto. So if they bought Take-Two, it would be, I don't see how Xbox wouldn't be the fastest selling console in the history of consoles.
So not
The
only
Xbox Series X, or even S for that matter.
But not
Everybody
only
would be
that,
buying one.
Court, you're looking at, speaking on Grand Theft Auto, remember it's not all just about, yes, I think you're right, the console sales would be staggering, and you just slap Grand Theft Auto for free on there with Game Pass Ultimate. They're going to make just hand over fist more money than they already have. The game is just generating, it oozes money forever.
Yeah.
It's always top 5, number 1, number 2 on the sales charts. Every quarter it's on the sales charts. But it's not just that, it's that with cloud, with Game Pass being able to play anywhere, Microsoft can turn around and say, Grand Theft Auto, play it anywhere. Play it on your phone. You can play it on your PC, computer, your old Xbox, whatever you want. But what they will win with is the additional content, the paid content in there. And from Take-Two side, that's what they want. They don't need to put out another brand new Grand Theft Auto for years. And they haven't. So, because they're just like, why? Why do we have to kill ourselves over this? Let's just do content drops. And the world goes crazy. And if they make an exclusive, you got a free GTA and the collection and everything else. Oh, it makes too much sense on that front. And you're right. It would still garner huge console sales for years.
Yeah, it would be a feather in Microsoft's cap. And I want to preface saying that these are all just rumors,
Yes.
and these are all just like almost pie in the sky things. But I want to go back to Bethesda and that whole acquisition, is that was a pie in the sky. So, and then that gets us to Square. Now, Square to me is Dragon Quest, Tomb Raider, and Final Fantasy. I know they have other things. I know many people are probably screaming saying they have all these other things, including the game called Avengers that you seem to like. But to me, they're a
Guardians of the
Final
Galaxy.
Fantasy, Tomb Raider. They're a smaller studio. That probably will end up, if they were out of the 4 of them, that would probably end up being that one. And that's another one that Final Fantasy in the past has been always associated with Sony. And the whole studio, when you think about it, besides Outriders, has always been associated with Sony. So there's many different breadcrumbs, you could say, because if you look at these studios, right? So Outriders was day and date on Game Pass, and Tomb Raider had the deal before, but we know deals can be come and gone. And Sega, then you have the Yakuza. Ubisoft, we just have their games always on sale. They've never actually shown up on Game Pass.
Yep.
And then Take-Two, Grand Theft Auto was just on Game Pass.
And on Square's side, you're right. It's Final Fantasy. Pulling that from Sony is huge. You'll still, again, if it's on Game Pass, it doesn't mean that it's necessarily not, well, if they acquire it, if it's a partnership deal like a Ubisoft thing that we're talking about, and Square goes down that path, Square can still make a ton of revenue by being able to say, no, we can still sell our games on other platforms, but we've partnered up with Game Pass and we've got maybe exclusive content, whatever, on Game Pass. There's different ways they can slice those deals. Now, if it's a full acquisition, like we're just taking Square, you are dealing with Final Fantasy. And then I'm looking at like their North America, where it's like, yeah, Outriders, Life is Strange, Marvel's Avengers, and like Guardians of the Galaxy. Those are, I know that we all crap on Avengers a lot for having so many problems and it's kind of whatever, but it has a big player base. They make all their money right now off of the DLC, like, sorry, not the DLC, but like outfits and actually just the paid content like that. You're just buying tags and you're buying suits for your characters. They're $15 a popcorn. You want the new Black Panther skin? It's $15.
Yeah,
and people
it's
go,
expensive.
woo, look at this new suit we get. And then you get into Guardians, which I would imagine is going to have a similar thing in there, but it looks like it's just a single campaign. But that's Marvel content. And that's what we've both talked about in the last episode, we were talking about the superhero piece on Xbox side, where they don't have an exclusive superhero when we talk about Batman and we want to be able to have DC in there. This can help Microsoft with that. Oh, we have Spider-Man and we have Wolverine on PlayStation side, huge AAA. On Xbox side, if you get Square, you start the ball rolling by saying we have Marvel's Avengers, which is whatever for some, which is great for others. We have Guardians of the Galaxy, which could be amazing. It could be an average game, but it's a single player experience, which keeps me hopeful. And you can kind of keep going from there on the Square side. If Square can nail Guardians, and if this was all an acquisition, then they could kind of get their feet dipped into other Marvel franchises. And that would help Xbox in that comparison, whether people care for it or not. But for me, I'm like, that would excite me, getting Marvel properties under that.
So my question to you is, out of the 4 I mentioned, now I really think even out of these 4, it almost sounds more, makes like Take-Two and Ubisoft make way more sense as a partner. Like even for Take-Two, they're like, okay, our games are on Game Pass, but they're still out on other consoles. They'd be laughing on the microtransactions they'd be making on Grand Theft Auto and all that. They would just laughing because their game is now on Game Pass. And Ubisoft, I think, would be a partner. Out of those 4, Square, Sega, Take-Two, Ubisoft, which one excites you the most?
Long-term, Ubisoft. I think because they've been able to produce, for me, games that I enjoy, they have been able to produce some big winners across the board. That games that have a lot of longevity. When you look at Assassin's Creed, those are games I always enjoy grabbing. Far Cry always has me excited. I'm trying to think. With The Division and The Division 2, I played those a ton. That excites me because it's a partnership where I'm just like, look at my catalog, because I would have so much more to look forward to. Square doesn't excite me as much because, one, a lot of those titles don't excite me. I'm not a Final Fantasy guy, so it doesn't do much for me, which was that's their giant egg. The other titles, great, but I don't have enough in Square's catalog that would really get me moving. Take-Two, I agree with you. I think that would be, if anything, a partnership with Game Pass, and we sell across everything else, because why would I not want revenue coming in for Grand Theft Auto across everything? Why would I give you exclusive? But I'll partner with you because the DLC and the microtransactions, we will start seeing that go way up, because guys like me would say, well, I'm not paying for Grand Theft Auto that's 10 years old or whatever, but I'll go in and have a blast. It's amazing. Yeah. And cost me anything, I'll pay $5 for this and $10 for this, for the Sharks or whatever it is, and just dip my toe into it. For me, it would probably default and say Ubisoft would be exciting because of the massive catalog we could see. What about you?
Yeah, it's definitely going to be Ubisoft for me. I play a ton of those games. I'm playing Far Cry 5 right now. We've talked about Far Cry so much in the last 2 weeks, you and I was like, oh, I'm going to dip my toe back into Far Cry 5 with all the DLC. I get to play the Vietnam stuff. I get to play the Martian stuff. I'm like, whatever. It's something to do to
as you wait for the
get lost in. Yeah. Well, it's not that I don't have any games to play. My backlog is big, but I finished the Artful Escape, and now I'm just like, well, I wouldn't mind just going in an open world and just doing nothing, doing whatever I want. It doesn't make a difference. So that's one thing I like about Ubisoft. And then Sega, I do like the properties there. But it doesn't move the needle. So it's just Take-Two and Ubisoft for me. The other two they're just not for me, but it is what it is. But any one of these would be a huge win for Microsoft.
And I would say the last thing I'll say is that the Take-Two with WWE, that's something I would be excited for personally, because that thing, if I was free, I'm not spending $80 on the game, and every year when it does come out, I always buy the deluxe, so I'm dropping $120 because I want all the content for it, and love to stream it, play it to death for a year. And if for that title specifically, if it's the only one we would get for maybe a few years as they develop and try to get things correct, they could make a lot of money and garner a lot of goodwill from its core player base to say it's free on Xbox. It's not a system seller by any means, but it would turn a lot of heads of people that are Laps fans and that are wanting to jump back in if they go, it's free over here. Yeah, I got an Xbox.
it gives, they already have EA Play on Game Pass. Now it gives them basketball and 2K and wrestling and WWE. So then you have all the sports on Game Pass.
Yeah, that's a lot. Those are massive audiences. Like when I play MLB The Show and I'm like, this is silly. I was playing MLB The Show every year on my PlayStation. I always do. I always end up getting it. And then I'm sitting there with my Xbox controller playing it, and I'm still playing it to this day, and it's free. I'm like, that's crazy from where we've been for years and years of dropping $80, $90 for these games. And the sports franchises, don't play them all, but I love being able to play the show, and I'm able to do it for free. And that game specifically has so much for extra microtransaction, DLC, extra content they want you to pay for. That's how they get all of it, all that revenue. And all those sports franchises kind of snowballing and coming together under Xbox. It's a big, big win for them. Ladies and gentlemen, that wraps it up. What do you all think about all of these rumors? This is all rumors and speculation, but it's been coming up, and usually when there's smoke, there's fire, Court. And it will be interesting to see what happens over the next couple of weeks, because we could see something coming up and getting announced by Microsoft. And I think either way, it makes things exciting. It's exciting conversation, but let us know in the comments below. If there is going to be an acquisition, who do you think it would be? What games are you excited to see under kind of the Game Pass umbrella? Thanks so much for watching here on Assemble XP. I'm Matt. That's Court sitting right there. Thanks so much for watching. And as always, thank you all for assembling with us. See ya.